So, the last couple of years I have been mainly talking about exponential technologies and how they impact business and society. So, but since the last year I talk mainly about the age of consciousness and I integrate all these technologies. Why is that? Because there's this new generation who wants things differently, who grew up with technology and screens and who wants to use the technology for the good, for the improvement of society. And they want to do things differently. Yes, technology also challenges us to think differently, because they will do a lot of things that we have been used to do, and we will have to think differently also to create a future that will be different than the one we have known so far. So in the upcoming 20 years, we can solve world hunger. We can stop and reverse global warming. We can slow down or cure major diseases, provide clean water to everyone at low cost. And we can also solve an energy problem and switch to sustainable economies for everyone. So we can do all that with technology, we know that. What we will need is actually conscious leaderships. Leaders who, are aware of what is possible with technology and also are aware of the societal impact that technologies have. So I start with this video from E-Wally. Most of you have seen this, I think. It's a movie from Pixar about this robot, but in this scene here you can see actually a dystopian future of what is happening with technology and what is happening with our consumer society. And if you look at it carefully, we're not too far away from it, because also technology enables us to do many things from our sofa. We can order anything now with a click of a button on our mobile phone. So it also forces us to stay, a bit lazy. Humankind is lazy. So, and it also brings us in this laziness where we can actually do a lot of work just from our sofa or our seat and order everything. But the main thing is that everything is created for dopamine kicks. Dopamine is this chemical in our brain that gives us a quick fix. It is in media and entertainment. It is everywhere in news, even fake news. We are addicted to even our work. We are addicted to many things. We are addicted to fast food, because everything is easy. And dopamine gives us this quick fix. So the consumer society gives us a lot of these quick fixes all the time. What we need, though, in the future is more serotonin. Serotonin is the other chemical in our brain who is working more on a long-term satisfaction. Things that we get from, or the satisfaction we get from sports, being outdoors, playing with others, playing with our family, do meditation, healthy food, learning something new. These are all the things that give serotonin level in our brains. So in the future, we need to move away from this addictive dopamine to more serotonin, which is more long-term driven. As Einstein used to say, the world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. We cannot change it without changing our thinking. So as we are entering this new world, we need to think entirely different about things, because everything that we know so far has been 150 years old from the industrial society, and we are entering in an entirely new society. Some of the challenges that are happening is the growing population growth. We come from 7.5 billion people to 10 billion by 2050. So that's an increase of a huge increase of numbers. And most of this population growth comes into emerging countries. Most of these people will come and live in cities, 70 to 75% by 2050. So we have a lot of challenges. So this consumer society also creates, a lot of diseases. Obesity is one of the biggest ones, and they keep rising everywhere. In US, 1 out of 2 people are obese. 1 out of 3 children are obese. And in Western economies, you see also that it's rising everywhere. Ultra-processed food is another one, because now we buy everything in packaged food, in plastic food, and all these ultra-processed foods are full of fats and sugars and chemicals we don't really need. If you look at the statistic, in most European countries, it's above 40%. England is already above 50%. Finland is above 40%. So we need to question, is this the society we want for our children and our future? Do we want to keep that line going, or do we want to change things? If you look at advertising, a child sees on average 40,000 advertisements per year. 40,000. Yeah. Only in the US, companies spend $10 billion to advertise to children through these kids channels and all that. And most of it is, again, for fast food, sugary food, and lots of toys and plastic things they don't really need. So luckily, there's the new generation who sees things different and who thinks different. Yeah, so this looks like a great meat burger, but it's actually a burger that is produced in the labs. Yeah? There's a whole wave of startups coming out of Silicon Valley, also in Europe, that are creating lab-processed food, yeah, which can be soya-based or which can also be cell-based, yeah, from animals. And actually, they create this type of food. So as Richard Branson, who invested in one of these startups, he says that in 30 years' time, we will look back how cruel we were in, killing all those animals just for our food cycle. And this whole industrial food cycle will also change and is very challenged by the young generation. Veganism is on the rise everywhere. People just refuse to eat meat, not just for killing the animals, but also because it's very harmful to climate change. Yeah, it's one of the biggest contributing factors. At the same time, we keep polluting our rivers, our oceans, and new research now shows that our rivers and our oceans are full of microplastics. Yeah, the plastics that we throw in the sea or in nature, they become microplastics to corrosion, sunlight, and all that, and they come back in our food chain. Yeah, because the fish eat it, and then we eat the fish. Yeah, so when we don't really know yet how harmful it is for our bodies, but we know it's not very good. So we have a lot of new research that is actually showing these things and making us a lot of things apparent that we didn't know before. So let's have an overview of exponential technology trends impacting any business. Yeah, the automation of everything, artificial intelligence and robotics, autonomous vehicles and transportation, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, the Internet of Things, energy, utilities and environment, 3D printing, 4D printing, new materials like graphene, perovskite, photonics. Yeah, graphene is used for many new applications, like for battery use and also filtering of salt water. Biotechnology, genetics, synthetic biology, neuroscience, nanotechnology, and quantum computing. So I give you a short overview of most of these. So this is the picture we have in nearly every big city. Yeah, so the traffic situations is, totally unproductive, it's inefficient, everybody drives in his own car to work, and then we sit in huge traffic jams. It's a loss of time, a loss of productivity. And it's also very polluting. So as more and more people come to cities and more people want also to get to their work, the car sales keep increasing at an average rate of 3%. So we need to change that system. We need to move to alternative energy, and clean energy type of cars. And we also need data to actually make these things more efficient. So in the EU, for example, they have already signed an agreement, 29 countries signed an agreement to install 5G uninterrupted by 2025 in all urban areas, highways and railways, to give the chance to these new technologies to foster. And if you look at data, this is a video from Waze, one of the apps that got bought by Google a couple of years ago, that actually looks for alternative routings, when you drive to work or when you're in traffic jams. And all these things were not visible before. You remember the days when these guys were sitting in front of lots of analog TV screens and they could see the traffic jams, but they could not do anything about it. With data, we can solve these things because we can see what is happening. We can foresee what is happening and create alternatives. And this is an example in traffic, but this goes to anything, any business that works with data. Yeah, data shows us things that we didn't know before, and we can work towards more productivity and efficiency. If you look just at self-driving cars, it's going to create an entirely new way of how we look at mobility. Yeah? If you look at just in the healthcare sectors, self-driving cars hardly have any accidents. Yeah? The human error is minimized. So what is going to happen to the health industry if there's no more accidents? I think now, on a yearly basis, there's 1.35 million people who die in car accidents every year, and there's 20 to 50 million people who get injured. Yeah? So that's a lot of things. Look at insurance level. If there's no person to insure anymore, Look at, energy and then moving from the fossil fuel economy to new energies. Look at hotels, if people will be able to sleep overnight in their car. And you can use your car also now to, organize a meeting or have even a coffee meeting in your car. So car manufacturers now, they're all looking, the biggest manufacturers, in new ways of how we deal with transport, also in cities. And trucks, for example, here in the EU, they did already an experiment 2 years ago with 5 trucks that were linked to each other autonomously, and they drove from 5 different countries to the port of Rotterdam, without any issue. So the technology is there, and I think that this technology, especially for trucks and in cities for cab drivers or ride sharing, will be enabled the next 3 to 5 years a lot, especially on highways, because the technology is very viable. So self-flying vehicles and drones. If you look at drones, also Amazon is experimenting already with drone delivery in the UK. You have this eyewear drone which can scan actually inventories in warehouses. We have first aid drones already with heart defibrillators that can be sent to an accident immediately, a lot faster than an ambulance can get there. And even Boeing is experimenting with carriages of over 200 and 250 kilo by drones. So there's a lot of innovation there. But not only in drones, also self-flying vehicles. Yeah, we know about self-driving vehicles, but self-flying vehicles are coming up more and more. On the top left, you can see the pop-up experiment from Airbus. It's actually not an experiment. This is going to market already this year. Yeah, it looks very futuristic. So you can drive with your car from your home to a place in the city, and then that vehicle or flying vehicle will take you to the other side of the city. In Dubai currently, they have this type of self-flying taxis, which can take you from one part in the city to another. It's just a one-carry vehicle. It's fully autonomous, and it's solar-powered and battery-powered. On the top bottom left, you can see an investment from Larry Page from Google, which is a type of self-flying drone that can work more in natural environments. And on the top right, you can see the Aeromobile, which is a Slovakian entrepreneur who built this car that actually also can turn into an airplane. You can order this now on the website for $1 million. Can be delivered by 2020. So all these entrepreneurs are not waiting, to sit in traffic. They find solutions. Do you think that Amazon is going to wait and let their drivers sit in traffic to deliver their packages? No, they are looking for different type of solutions. So the same way as 100 years ago, people could not imagine that we will have cars on the road, we could also imagine that we will have a lot of self-flying vehicles in cities and other areas. So automation of everything, this is not new. In the car industry, they do this for years already. But this is a video from Tesla where you can hardly see any human beings, in the production process. Everything is automized. On this video, you can see from Alibaba in a warehouse, where they do delivery and packaging. And 70% of the human work is replaced by these robots. They are totally flexible, autonomous, they're battery-powered, and they do most of the work in these warehouses. So in lots of manufacturing and warehousing, these type of robots are used now. Also in the health industry, robot surgery, this is the Da Vinci project, where actually the surgeons can, look with 3D type of imagining. They can have a much better look, a much deeper look in what is happening. And on the right, you can see these robotic arms who are a lot more precise than our human arms. So we can do a lot more precision surgical interventions. And then also we have a lot of robot assistants, as we call them. There are tons and tons of new assistants coming up every day. And they can be used in many type of different situations. They can be companions for kids, they can be companions for the elderly, they can be assistants in hospitals and lots of different areas. Artificial intelligence is probably the most disruptive technology that we will know for the next coming years. A couple of years ago, nobody knew about it except in the universities and the coders, but now every big corporation is investing heavily in artificial intelligence. Why is that? Because there is so much data that we produce from all our devices, our mobile phones, our laptops, but also the sensors now, that we as human beings, we cannot make sense of that data any longer. So we need machine learning and new type of AI to actually show us more sense and efficiency in the data. So if you look at this slide, yeah, the Google CEO said we will move from a mobile first to an AI first world. You know, remember 10 years ago when we were always talking about mobile is going to be next? Well, AI is going to be next now. This is a slide from Boston Consulting Group where you can see what, you know, which type of businesses will be affected by AI in the next 5 years. And it's literally any business. Yeah. And here you can see some of the applications that we know, yeah, from speech recognition, handwriting recognition, optical character recognition, image and video recognition, facial recognition, to speech, natural language synthesis, robotic process automation, and so on. Yeah, so it covers a lot of, you know, work we do, and especially task-related jobs. In the health sector, the top 10 AI applications, by the potential of savings potential of what can be saved in this sector, you can see the different areas, yeah, from robot-assisted surgery, virtual nursing assistance, administrative workflow assistance, fraud detection, dosage error reduction, connected machines, clinical trial participant identifiers, preliminary diagnosis, automated image diagnosis, and cybersecurity. So these are the most important areas where all this is happening. What is important, though, that we use technology and AI, you know, for the benefit of society. Yeah, we need to encode human values in it. As of now, we have been coding mainly for the benefit of the corporation or just to extract more value out of society. The real coding is starting now because we start to realize that there's also a heavy impact on society. So we need to make sure that we encode and we embed human values in the coding of AI and the algorithms for shared benefit and prosperity, ecosystem thinking, and also use technology responsibly. Blockchain, another hype work that is also covering most of the areas and sectors that we are in. So from medical and healthcare, it's mainly about creating a unique identifier of trust, yeah, that the patient can be in control of his own data. In automotive, it's more about asset and physical asset management. In energy, it's about, you know, reducing the waste, reducing inefficiencies. Government and voting is about, you know, digital identity. And as they do it in Estonia already, they have digital identity, they link it to taxes, and they all use the blockchain for that. In legal and law enforcement, it's more about smart contracts and unique identification. So lots of areas. So in health, for example, here are some use cases where the blockchain is used already by some corporations, with especially healthcare data exchange and interoperability. Claims adjudication and building management, drug supply chain integrity and remote auditing, and clinical trials and population health research and cybersecurity, and the Internet of Medical Things, as we call it in those areas. PharmaTrust is one of the companies that is actually using blockchain to create a more secure global tracking system, yeah, for fraud detection and also for drug, you know, fake drugs that come into the normal distribution system. Here is how they do it. So you can see from the drugs, items that are created, that are packaged, that are labeled, they go through distribution areas and then to hospitals and online pharmacies, and all with a unique identity, yeah, that can be tracked. Medical Chain is another startup that actually uses blockchain technology to securely store health records, and where the patient is going to be in full control of who has access to the data, for how long and what type of data. So, and also it's about data exchange between the different type of players in this ecosystem. Here you can see another example from, I think it's BlockCare, yeah, where actually they look at new insure type of models, yeah, in the healthcare business, where they actually federate the whole ecosystem that's involved with patient data. The patient or the person is in the middle, and then you can see insurer, doctor, labs, pharmacies, government agency, administration, and care providers, all in the same loop, all having access to that data. Yeah, but the person or the patient is always in control of his data. Internet of Things. As mentioned before, is another one of the technologies that will create a lot of better productivity and more efficiencies in the processes that we do. So we literally come from standalone computing to distributed computing, cloud computing towards ambient computing, which is all about the sensors, machine intelligence, mind-machine interfaces, and so on. We come from thousands of apps to billions of apps, and from millions of users to indefinite users. From zero network connections to effectively infinite network connections. Yeah, so every product can have a sensor and can transmit data to the network, and from that data we can learn a lot of things. However, the platform economy is unbalanced. Yeah, if you look where does our data currently goes, it's mostly to Silicon Valley and Silicon Valley companies. Yeah, look at Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Intel, and all the new players, Airbnb, Uber, Snapchat, and so on, Netflix. And then in Asia we have Alibaba, Tencent, and SoftBank, which are the big blocks that are doing a lot of investments also already here in Europe. But look in Europe where we are. We have SAP and we have Spotify. Yeah, so we need to think differently also how we use our data and where the value of the data goes. Because if we say that data is the new oil, of this century, of this decade, then we need to make sure that we also are in control of that data to create new business models with it. Because that money all goes to Silicon Valley or to Asia. So this is, in Europe, is a real challenge for us. So if you look at what type of things we can detect already with sensors, here you can see a slide from Libelium, a startup in Spain, and we literally can measure air pollution, forest fire detection, wine quality enhancing, smartphone detection, electromagnetic levels, traffic congestion, smart roads, smart lighting, waste management, water leakages, water quality, and so on, and even the quality of shipment conditions. So everything that is linked to our city life and even in agriculture, we can improve with sensoring and data. In manufacturing, we can control a lot better the whole production and supply management chain and distribution chain, from actually the production to looking at our equipment and how the equipment is functioning, and also to our distributors and global operations. Enabling digital supply chain capabilities is bringing all these technologies together, from artificial intelligence, virtual reality, blockchain, supply chain, digital twin, IoT, design simulations, and then, have an information flow with collaborative equipment, ecosystem interaction, and process interoperability. These are all things for what we call the Industry 4.0 design principles, for vertical integration, horizontal integration, and end-to-end engineering. We will have a lot better efficiency the coming years due to that. But also IoT is used in buildings. We're going to get a lot more smarter buildings. This is an example of the Edge in Amsterdam, which is a project that was managed by Deloitte. And this entire building is full of sensors. So it knows already when you enter the building with your car, it knows that you're in the building. It knows your meetings. Everybody has a personal app where they can actually schedule their meetings, whether it's in the coffee shop, whether it's a face-to-face meeting, whether you need a meeting room. You can control temperature in the rooms. You can control the lighting in the rooms. And also they are a lot more sustainable. So this is 98% solar powered, and also they recuperate rainwater to use as waste management. So these are really intelligent buildings. We will see this in hospitals and public buildings and more. Also, healthcare is coming to your home, with all these new devices like Amazon Echo or the Apple or Google Home. We don't really know yet what is happening, but Amazon, for example, has done a lot of investment in the healthcare sector. They're buying up pharmacy startups, they are buying up health provider startups, new technology startups in these areas, and they are filing a lot of patents. For example, one of the patents that they registered recently is how to detect a cough. Through Amazon Echo, because we talk to Echo for our commands, but also Echo is listening, can have a listening mode. So they are now developing these patterns where they could detect a cough, and then through the whole ecosystem management behind. They could actually tell you what type of medicine or drug they can send to you instantly to your home. So they manage the whole full cycle. But also they are registering patterns of like to control, listen to the happiness level in your home. You know, like how many times are you laughing, or you unhappy, or, you know, these type of levels that they can detect through audio. So audio and voice technologies will become more and more important, especially from the home. And if you look here, for example, how IoT is adding value to the traditional cycle of how we do things. A simple example I can give is with a blood supply or diabetes test of the level of your blood sugar can be controlled at home by a person, can be sent to the network and communication over the sensors and network, and then also can be aggregated by the hospital or by your doctor and then analyzed, and also can be acted upon, you know, when things get rough. And we have this not only with diabetes patients, we have this with heart rates. We can detect heart rates. We can detect a lot of health levels, personal health levels, also with wearables. And this industry is growing every year. 3D printing, another one where there's a lot of innovation happening. Here you see a couple of examples. This was an example, sorry. This is a chair which is made out of mycelium, which is actually an organic product made out of mushrooms. And it becomes very hard, but it's entirely natural. We have 3D printed houses. There's more and more companies, especially in China, that are building houses like in one day, 3D printed. We can create new art forms. This is an art form that's created by an AI. We can create new and new materials and new forms of materials, even with steel now, for in architecture and building structures. We will create an entirely new and much stronger way of how we used to build buildings. And I foresee that's going to be a new renaissance in actually the forms and the way we see architecture and we build things, also with 3D printing. We can 3D print skin. And we can 3D print even organs. So now what we call regenerative medicine, we can actually create new organs or a new liver out of the cells of your liver. And the tests are very positive and very promising in this field. One of the companies that's very active in the medical field is Materialize, a Belgian company, and they use 3D printing actually in a lot of different type of ways. So they create anatomic type of 3D prints of actually what is happening in the body. Here you can see one example of like a heart aorta. And so this can be used also for doctors to see better, like what do they need to do before an intervention. And also for students, it can be used. And also we do a lot of 3D printed on a cellular level now. So we can 3D print hearts, even heart tissue, and other type of organs. So biotech, nanotech, neuroscience, quantum computing, very quickly on this one. Biotech, we have more and more genetic and DNA samples now. How many of you have done a DNA sample? Nobody. Okay, somebody. So I did mine in 2011 in Singularity University, and it's very interesting to see actually that with genetics we will move actually from the type of medicine that we have now to a more preventive type of medicine, because you can see based on your DNA what type of diseases that your body is more sensitive on, and then you can also act upon that. So this was a slide from Human Longevity. One of those companies from Peter Diamandis that is storing those type of DNA and then also learning a lot of different DNA samples. There's also 23andMe doing that. So with the current level of science in healthcare we estimate now that a child will live 142 years old. The average rate of increase of age is also growing up. So we get a more and more healthy elderly population. So also people live a lot more healthier with everything we know now from health. In nanotechnology, technology becomes more and more narrow and minimal. We can embed technology and put it in the size of a pill, swallow it, and then make it communicate with devices outside of our body. This device is from a startup in Cambridge, Owlstone, and it can actually detect lung cancer just by breathing into this device. So based on the nano level of the chemical particles in your breath. And we will see a lot of innovations in many different areas for this. Neuroscience also, we know more about the brain than we have ever known before. We can translate actually now already dreams into text speech, yeah? And a lot more innovations are happening in this area. Quantum computing, if you think that everything goes fast, things are going to go a lot faster with quantum computing. This is the D-Wave quantum computer from Google, which is 1,000,000 times faster than the fastest computer available today. Yeah, so when these machines will come into the market in 3 to 5 years' time. So health, life sciences trends. Yeah, so all this technology can be used to reduce cost, especially inefficiencies in hospital and in the whole ecosystem management of healthcare. Health tracking, yeah, with these wearable devices, preventing human errors, yeah, with more and more AI that will see these inefficiencies. Personalized medicine, yeah, we can go into a more personalized medicine, type of medicine that we have not known before. Assisting high-risk patients. Yeah, we know more about them. We can also track when there are risks coming. Human-centric health, as mentioned before. Precision medicine. Yeah, as we know more about all these technologies, we can also become more and more precise about it. Machine learning powered by patient identity matching. So by all this data that we throw in the network, machine learning can learn a lot faster. So we know now already that cancer detection can be a lot faster with machine learning than we can do as normal doctors in hospitals. Blockchain to make interoperability and trust the reality, and then from sick care system to real health. This is a real trend also, that people go more and more off track. You know, they go more outside of the pharmaceutical industry and they start paying more attention to their own body. Yeah, so actually to get rid of stress, to get rid of the outside of, stressing elements that are coming, and they focus on actually who they are, what they want. Yeah, and then more meditation type of techniques, more yoga, more wellness and fitness are coming to the market. This is a growing sector everywhere at a tremendous rate also. Digital transformation. Some elements also with voice technologies that I mentioned already and digital assistants. Here you can see an example of how good, digital assistants are becoming.
If you also activate the camera, I'll also be able to see your facial expressions. Thank you for granting access to your camera. I see you are interested in AutoCAD, including specialized toolsets. Are you a current user of AutoCAD?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for being an Autodesk customer.
So you can see, she looks really like a human. Yeah, so the visual technologies, the voice technologies are becoming so good that it's going to be hard to detect even from a phone call whether it's a human calling or whether it's a machine calling. And we have now already this type of virtual agents also on Instagram that are creating a life, like posing in the real world on top of the virtual images or on top of the real world, and people think that they are real characters and they have millions of followers. So, and even this type of examples, especially for assistants or digital assistants, will become more and more integrated into our lifestyle. Augmented virtual mixed reality and holographics. This is a video from Microsoft HoloLens, where you can see the possibilities of virtual reality. Yeah, so especially in medicine and health, we can learn a lot, especially for students, and we can learn a lot by analyzing, putting data, and then also visualizing in VR helmets. Ford is using it to design its new car. Disney is using it to design its new theme park. And lots of companies are already using this type of technologies to mainly design, new worlds. There are startups in Silicon Valley that are designing entire new office spaces. Yeah, because with a virtual helmet, you don't need an office desk anymore. You can just decide which type of interface I want. Do I want to just chat? with someone, or do I just want to type, or just do I want to design? You can just, look at a very different perspective of how you see office work. So digital innovations are helping to reshape the future of care by making healthcare delivery more efficient and more accessible. And you can see here again all the technologies that are used for that I mentioned. But how is digital helping? It's mainly in diagnosis and treatment, quality of the treatment, the speed and accuracy, accelerating the development of the new drugs and services, personalization, self-service, patient experience and training. So this is a slide from Frank Diano, a fellow futurist. It's one of my favorite slides, and it actually shows the technologies that we know: internet, social, mobile, cloud, big data. And here are all the, the new technologies that I just mentioned, from 3D printing, renewable energy, IoT, AI, nanotechnology, robotics, blockchain, and so on. And then here you see all the future, scenarios. That are happening, that are currently happening, or that we predict that will happen. But then here in the middle, you see all the technologies that you haven't heard of, or hardly have heard of, that are now in the labs and are also being prepared to come into the business world and society. So the interesting thing about this slide is that if you look at one technology and you combine it with one area and one of the new technologies, you will always see new opportunities. So this is how startups also, how they can pivot really fast because they have access to data and they try something out, it doesn't work, but maybe they see something new or they see a new pattern in the data and they can pivot into an entire different direction. And so data is giving us a lot of new possibilities, new opportunities to do things differently. Another consequence is that also all these exponential technologies have a tremendous cost on society. So an impact also, like a declining middle class, technological unemployment, 5 generations of workers, decline in fertility rates, fall in working age and population. So we need to make sure also that as leaders that we are very aware of the impact of technology and how this impacts our society. If you talk about disruption, new players like all the technology companies like Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, even Facebook, they are set to enter the health care market. Amazon just erased 30 billion of market value in just 2 hours by announcing the merger with Hathaway. There is a lot of disruption coming, and why is that? Because they have access to a lot of data. They have access to a lot of customer data. They know what we buy, they know what we wear, they know what we're interested in, and then they will know more and more. So they also have the whole distribution cycle, and they can create entire new patterns of actually providing healthcare through what they know about us. So they are truly disruptors. On the other hand, also, the trend is that from celebrating disruption that we have known the last 10 years, it's now all about facilitating construction. So the disruptive behavior from the Silicon Valley startups like Uber, you can see, is not wanted any longer in European cities, because they create actually party areas in Barcelona, for example, where the locals cannot live any longer, in weekends, their normal life. Uber has a lot of problems with taxi drivers or competition with taxi drivers and regulation in Europe, and then also the Cambridge Analytica scandal that we know from Facebook. Many people have left, the platform because of that, and we don't trust them any longer. So trust becomes more and more important also, and it becomes more important to collaborate and work together with the startups to a very good positive impact on society. Let's have a look at future of talent, skills and jobs. There are 5 new economies impacting any business. These economies are growing year on year on. The maker economy, 3D printed that I mentioned already. On-demand and sharing economy, own less, access more, a new kind of this ownership, which is very used by the new generation. Circular economy, people, planet, profit, towards sustainable capitalism. We cannot any longer do the things we have done, especially with plastics we use. We need to think more in circular type of design and circular levels that we can reuse the products. And then experience economy, Yeah, the companies and the startups that are creating the best experiences, whether it's in a physical world or digital, they are the winners of today. So creating a good experience is essential for everyone. And then also the gig economy, that we can do remote working and telepresence from anywhere now. So if you look at the rate of automation, this is statistics from the Future of Jobs report from the World Economic Forum. Yeah, so we see human machine rate in 2018, 29% machines, in 2022 estimated to be 42%, and by 2025 over 52%. So the rate of automation is going increasingly faster. Yeah. What is important for leaders also is how you use this technology. Yeah, so what work can be automated? Yeah, so how do you keep the balance of, like, you know, in between automation and in between keeping your people happy? So increasing automation, cognitive and AI technologies over the next 10 years. Workforce, who can do the work? Technological advancements enabling new models for interaction between companies. And then workplace, where is the work done? As you can see of that graph, the way we work is changing. Yeah, physical proximity becomes less and less important because we can work from anywhere now. Automation level will increase on every level because it's very hard for companies to say no to automation. Yeah, because you need to make more profit. Yeah, so, and automation does that. And then also talent category, the human level and the human quality needs to be more and more specialized. So, and that also will increase. If you look at the job landscape, again, from the same reports, emerging jobs and declining jobs, we see, like on the left, you know, data analysts, AI and machine learning specialists, general operation managers, software application analysts, sales and marketing professionals, big data specialists, digital transformation specialists, new technology specialists, organizational development specialists, and information technology services. Mostly IT and technology related jobs. Declining is everything that's data entry clerks, everything related to accounting, administrative and executive secretaries, assembly and factory workers, and so on. And if you look at the skills level, yeah, in this report they say there's going to be more emergent jobs with automation than declining. You know, I don't believe that. You know, there's lots of different type of numbers, lots of different reports. There's a lot of speculation. I believe there will be a lot of new jobs created, but I think there will be more people losing their job than actually creating new jobs. On a skills level, growing and declining, we see here the growing trends and the declining trends for 2022. The interesting thing is that on the growing area, you know, all the skills that we need are human related, or especially human traits that cannot be copied by machines as of now. Yeah, or imitated. Active learning and learning strategies, creativity, originality and initiative, critical thinking and analysis, leadership and social influence, emotional intelligence and reasoning and problem solving, and ideation. These are all the skills that we will need in the future, because automation and robots will do everything that is routine-based or task-based. Everything that can be copied will be done by machines very soon. Yeah, so we need to look in different areas to increase value. So, and this is a slide from Deloitte, a new vision of human work, yeah, focused on creating value, fluid rather than predetermined, context-specific rather than standardized, non-routine based, increasingly work group oriented, and working in teams will become more and more important, and how these teams can operate, and then non-process based. So everything we used to do before is different. Yeah, or it's going to be different. So let's have a last look in conscious leadership and trust. Yeah, global distrust continues, especially in the Western economies. Look at, you know, all the Western countries where distrust is declining. It's only growing in China, Indonesia, India, and United Emirates. And then Singapore, Mexico, the Netherlands, Malaysia is neutral. Yeah. So trust employers lead on change. Like the top 5 communication topics that are most effective in increasing employers' trust, as determined by discrete choice logic analysis, is social impact. The organization's contributions for the betterment of society becomes more and more important. Yeah, values. What are the human values that you live by? What are the human values that your corporation is living by? What's the future? What's the vision for the future? Yeah, what's the purpose, the organization mission and purpose, and then operations. And then trust at work, the new employer-employee contract is all about leading change, empower employees, start locally, see your leadership, be aspirational, train the workforce of the future, address concerns about the personal impact of change, give employees a voice, create opportunities for shared action, empower them with information, solve problems at home, improve societal conditions in the local communities, and then live your values and engage directly, be visible and show personal commitment. These are all the qualities that we will need from conscious leadership in the future. And 76% say that CEOs should take the lead on change rather than waiting for government to impose it. That's another trend, As government has less and less impact on actually societal impact, especially on the short term, we expect leaders from corporations to take those impacts, One good example is from Patagonia, for example, where the board of Patagonia decided to actually, the tax that they gained through the tax or the new tax system that Trump introduced a year ago, they gained 10 million in profits extra for that, and they give it back to invest in local startups that are working on climate change. So these are the new type of actions that corporate leaders are taking. And on the right, you can see the areas also where they can bring positive change. So building future teams is all about flexibility to change, exponential learning, empathy, things that cannot be done by machines, values, trust, respect, engagement, collaboration, transparency, cultural transformation, experiential knowledge, not knowing everything, but actually having the experience of doing things is going to become more and more valuable than an academic degree. Defining new competencies, roles, skills, and capabilities, and also use new methodologies. I heard this morning that you use design thinking, which is great, but we need to already move beyond that because design thinking is just one part that we do. We need to integrate circular thinking, systemic thinking, ethical thinking, and also Socratic design, which is more about the art of listening to each other. We use a model that we call conscious business model design, which is based on the startup canvas model, but we integrate in there social change areas. We bring in the UN Sustainability Development Goals, we bring in new economies, we bring in futurism and new technologies, and we can build this type of conscious business actually for new business development and new ideas in new areas. So as a resume, leading the age of consciousness, focus on values and human capital, rethink your business models, build your strategy around platforms, design with value for customers, raise your technological acumen, invest in technology, it's one of the most important things, innovate rapidly and openly, learn more from your data, focus on purpose, not products, commit to 100% renewable energy, and also go to 100% zero waste. When you can do that, you become a good conscious leader, and it will also bring you a lot of new customers, and customers that trust you and that will stay with you on the longer term. This is one of my last slides, which is from the wealth pyramid, as we call it. It's from Tony Robbins, the #1 coach in the world. And what we see here is actually the physical body, emotions, meaning, relationships, which is the core of our human being. And then time, career, mission, finances comes afterwards. And then in the later part, we have contribution and spirituality. What we see is that most people are actually in this triad of finances, career, mission, and time. And they forget the sense of relationships, emotions, meaning, and the physical body. Taking care of your physical body is the first thing. And this is why so many people burn out. In Western societies, we have now over 50% burnout rates in UK and some other countries. Because people cannot cope any longer with the stress and of work. So it's very important that we also bring that balance back to the core of who we are and make sure that we have teams that also respect things. And also let's respect and think about our children. In the kindergarten, a Stanford study, in kindergarten says that children laugh 300 times a day. In adult life, we only laugh 20 times a day. So why is that? So the industrial society and the industrial school system has killed creativity because we were meant to do tasks in our jobs. But the future will be different because technology and robots will do the task and routine jobs. We need to go back to all this creativity, empathy, all these deeply human skills to create a different type of future and teams that will work and collaborate with machines to create a better society. Thank you very much. I think there's a couple of questions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you for giving us some insights. It's really interesting to see how IT can solve some of the issues which are coming up, but also that it's about leadership and cooperation. And this brings me again to co-creation, which you will experience today as well. So it's about working together in the society to make the things better. With the help of IT, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now it's time for your questions. There should be some colleagues with microphones, so if you have a question, please just raise your hand and you will get the microphone. Please don't be shy. Over there, yep.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for a great presentation. And
thank you.
Lots of new thinking during your presentation, but I wondered who owns the data, and in conjunction with how you use it in AI and decision support and so on. If the patient or the citizen owns the data and says what can be seen or what can be used, so the result of the AI differs from place to place. So it comes in a hazard, if you understand. So that
as of now we have health records, and we can use AI to connect different type of sources of data to know more about that person, which is the model as of now. But I think that model is not sustainable any longer because we will go more and more to a personalized type of medicine. So we will need to have that combination, and we will need new contracts between the person who owns the data and the person or the patient. And I think blockchain will be key in that, because then literally all the companies who need the data can have access to it with the permission of the patient. And I think that's the model that we will move towards. So it's going to take some time, probably 3 to 5 years. But as technology also makes things more and more transparent, customers and consumers become more and more informed. They will ask that from the corporations already. We see now already from the new generation that when they don't want to work for companies any longer where they don't share the values. Or if a company does something wrong in the eyes of that group of generation, they stop buying the products. So I think this model, we will see more and more, and also will lead to this type of new ownership of data.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Come on, I'm here to answer. There's more questions there.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, you mentioned that the obesity is the problem. It's really a real problem, but the reason behind obesity is the agricultural manufacturing of too much energy around the world and the uneven distribution of it. So that's the point we should get into, because I think changing people by saying that you're obese doesn't help much. I'm a doctor and I know it on my own experience and on my work, so that only few people change if they are not in a way forced to change because of you can't get something or it's too expensive and so on.
Yeah, again, that is I think is a model that is going to change because if we know that obese people are also costing a lot to our social health care, if people become aware of that, there's going to be an uneven type of contribution. So I think the insurance models will also change that those people will have to pay more if they are not healthy. So with the tracking of personal medicine and personal health, insurers also will anticipate on that. If I am more healthy, I will receive points. Yeah, if I'm not healthy and not taking good care of myself, I will not I will pay more. Yeah, so But there's a, it's like, remember the time like 20 years ago where everybody was smoking everywhere? And we thought we could not change that, and in 10 years' time we changed that. Yeah, so it looks always impossible from the beginning, but I believe that a lot of change is possible with also changing by giving and by leading as an example. I became vegan 2 years ago, and it changed my entire life. My entire physical body system literally had a reset. Yeah? I quit sugar, alcohol, and all these things, and became vegan, and all the problems that I had in my physical body disappeared. I haven't taken one pill in 2 years' time. Yeah, so, and by giving that example, I know that I influence a lot of people around me. A lot of people around me take an example of it and also become vegan. And so I think more and more of these people, and the young generation especially, in UK the rise is like tremendous. It's 30% of the young generation is vegan now in the UK. So, and there's more and more vegan restaurants open up, and it's a whole culture actually. So these are really trends in society that are happening. And of course, I haven't touched on agriculture here, but also we need to move away from this chemical food processing, food agriculture type of creation and these chemicals in food. Human beings are very lazy, yeah? And this is one of the problems. So I think we need to solve it by showing example and also go into different type of models how we handle that.
Okay, good. In respect, okay, one more question, the last one, because in respect of time, we need to crack on.
I was just kind of wondering, like, you were pretty optimistic on kind of how fast the change is going to be. So I think like about the kind of CEOs making the impact, and I think probably they are better off than the politicians because politics is not really fast-moving area. But then kind of how could we then drive the kind of CEOs to boost the change? Because then they have their quarterly results to worry for. I think the kind of, like we had a lot of people in Davos a few weeks ago talking about the kind of a change, and everyone got there with private jets. So in a way, like they talk about it, but are they really doing it? And any ideas on how to make it happen?
Yeah, I think every transformation starts from a personal level. It's too easy what we have in our culture now. Everybody points the finger to somebody else. It's always the fault of here and here and here. They don't do things right. So, but the real change starts from, personal responsibility. Yeah. So, and I think next to digital transformation, we have personal transformation as another big trend, because more and more people will have to, connect better to themselves and also know what they really want. And be passionate about the road they go so they can create new passionate teams around that. And it's very important that because, by showing the example again, yeah, we know that the leaders who are doing these things now, we see that with Patagonia, we see that with IKEA, Lego is now producing plastics made out of sugarcane. So there's more and more examples of leaders who actually show the change, and that increases in more sales and more customers. So we know that humanistic level or that humanistic approach is also connecting better to the new generation. The big shift is in that new generation and connecting to that new generation. Yeah, as of now, I know that with the connections that we have, there's a lot of things happening. They are most happening in circles and pockets of little circles. They're not really connected yet, but in 3 to 5 years, there will be a whole new movement emerging from that. I believe what we see now is the last impulses of the egocentric industrial society. Yeah? And that model is no longer sustainable. We know it. If you want to continue in that model, well, continue. If you want your children to live up and grow in cities where there's no air, children are now claiming clean air cities. In the UK, for example. In Belgium, we have the school children are manifesting for more impact on climate change for the government. So they did 4 rallies and manifestations in the weekend, and now they are refusing to go to school en masse, thousands and thousands of children. So they are not taking it any longer. So you have either the choice of I keep going what I do and I keep polluting and I keep, just generating more profit, or I'm going to become more responsible. More responsible becomes also more sustainable, more on a long-term commitment. And that will give you and bring you trust also and better connection to this new generation. So it's about choice. It's about your own consciousness in the end.
Okay,
That's it.
Good. Rudy, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you
very much.